Hey everyone, I am here tonight with Helen Liptak to talk about her latest story for us, Love from Memory. Helen has been a writer for us for a couple of different issues. This is, I think, her third one, if I'm not mistaken, but I still want to take a moment to introduce her and then we are going to jump into the interview. While teaching middle school history slash English slash drama, Helen wrote over 20 YA comedy dramas based on historical research and two YA novels. Half Scripts publishes her plays, while her flash fiction and short stories are found in the anthologies Space is the Place and Jersey Pines Inc. Teach, Write, Spark Flash Fiction, and other online magazines. She's in the process of writing a series of Regency romances that points to the creator of all. All right, Helen, the first question that I want to ask you, what was the inspiration behind the story from this issue?
I love Spain. I do. I just love Spain. I We lived there for 3 years, and the first time we flew in, I thought, this is so great. I'm home, So it just has a special place in my heart. And I was very familiar with it, so I thought, well, I could do this. I could talk about this because I lived there. So and I just all the different things I remembered, I started thinking, oh, I could put that in, and I could put that in. So I did. It was I really enjoyed doing it.
Well, it was great to read because of all that detail that you had in there. But I'm curious, was it the scenery that you loved, or the culture, or the food?
Yes. All of the above. Yeah, it was just a great time, and we um the little towns are fabulous. The food is great. The culture is very warm and friendly. Especially we were down in the south, and we were not really in a big tourist area. It I wrote about Jerez de la and Puerto Maria, and those are the areas that are more. I think of them as more like real Spain than like Barcelona or Sevilla.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think I loved about this one is it was contemporary. And some of the stories you've written for us in the past have had Regency. And I know in your bio it mentions that you've been writing some Regency. So I'm curious, what subgenre of romance is your favorite? Because even when we like more than one, there tends to be one that we always are drawn to the most. So what's your
Well,
favorite?
historical, but I really do like the Regency period because of um, the manners and the idea of their rules and the classic Regencies that are a lot of witty banter and stuff. I really enjoy those. Yeah, I like modern rom-coms, and I like westerns and a lot of other ones, but Regency is definitely my hands down favorite.
Yeah, I can see that. So, now that we've talked about romance subgenres, what is your favorite romance trope?
Um, think friends to lovers is my favorite. I like forced proximity too, kind of combining those two, and sometimes I like the the fake marriage, but only if it's really plausible. So many of them are not, but yeah, those are my favorites.
I have to say my favorite is Marriage of Convenience, and I think for historical, it's just way more believable than in contemporary. Because I've read some contemporary modern conveniences, but you're right. Sometimes you have to like set aside the plausibility aspect of it and just enjoy the story. But in the back of your mind, you're like, that would never ever
Yeah,
happen.
suspend your disbelief big time. But
Yeah.
yeah, I like, and sometimes some people can make that work really well. So this depends.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that in some of the older Regencies, you liked the witty banter. So let's go ahead and switch our topic to just books, period. Tell me some sweet romances that you just really love to read, whether they're newer ones or some classics that you find yourself going back to.
In Regencies, the classics that I go back to, Marion Chesney, who is also MC Beaton.
Mhm.
wrote a series called House for a Season that are hysterical. They're great regencies. And of course, Georgette Heyer and um, go back to Jane Austen. And honestly, I'm not that big an Austen fan. I mean, I like them, but she's not my be all and end all. In the modern contemporary writers of Regency, I enjoy Lynn Messina. She's written a Beatrice Hyde Clare series that I like. She gets a little silly sometimes, but I like hers. And then Sophie Laporte, and she just brought out a new one called Sham Proposal. I've made a list. We could be here all night. Um, uh, Edwina Kiernan has a couple of good ones. Mary Lancaster I like hers. Not sure hers are all clean. I don't remember. Don't scratch that. um, and let's see, Audra Wells and Ashton Newbold. I like them. Sally Britton has got some really good ones. I just read a good one of hers.
Yes, I have
So,
to say I enjoy hers, especially the ones that I'm probably going to say this wrong. Clairvaux Castle. Have you read that
yeah,
series?
yeah. I hated that she got to go and visit all. I think it was her. She wrote some posts from that when she went to visit the castle it was based on, and I was very jealous. Although I have been able to go to England and visit a couple of just a bunch of the place that I'm basing my series on is called Watton Under Edge, which I just think is a hysterical name for a village. And we got to visit there, and we made contact with the historical society there and talked to them. So that was really fun. So I enjoy writing about that. Now I've been there, so I can say, and this happened. So
That is really cool. So let's talk about research for a second. How do you get the information that you need? Do you rely on a lot of online sources, or do you prefer to get in touch, like you said, with historical societies?
do some of all of it. Some primary sources. It for Regency period, there's some really good. They're online, but there's some really good military papers and stuff that you
Oh,
can find for from actual regiments that were fighting during the Peninsular War. So that's really interesting. Um, then books and I found a couple of books. One is Faith in the Regency period. It's not the exact name. I don't see it right here. It's around here somewhere. Let's see. Nope. Uh, oh, I don't know. It's here. It's something about having the faith of the period, which was really interesting also to read. Um, the series I'm writing with Vicars and Viscounts, you find in a lot of books where people don't use the titles correctly. And I'm not an expert, but I try to go find experts on how to do that. And there's a lot to trip you up with that.
I have to admit, I get tripped up on the pronunciation because it was only a few years ago I realized it was Viscount and not Viscount. And I was having to go correct myself. I was like, oops.
The when the computer reads it back to me, it always reads it Viscount.
Well, maybe I'm secretly a computer. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it is. Your AI really.
Oh man. Now, how do you keep yourself from getting down the rabbit hole of research and like stop yourself and be like, I've done enough research. I need to actually write now.
Uh, well, I do spend a lot of time on rabbit trails, but you just find so many interesting things that what I try to do is with every character. I know this is a weird way to do this, but I make a PowerPoint and
Oh,
I I I get pictures and I whatever quotes or whatever I make slides for it and that way it makes me stop after a while and go, wait, you have 105 slides on this guy. You better stop. So, but things like, I maps and really I taught geography for a long time, so I'm really picky about distances. And if people say they rode from York to London in that day, I'm like, "God, no, you didn't." That's impossible. And that I just like close the book when they start doing that. So things like that, I really do like to check up on and um, I think it's Rome to Rio. You can go and say, "How do I get from Bristol to Watton under Edge?" And it'll tell you walking or cycling or cars. It does not do horses, but you can translate it, and it gives you a really good idea about actual distances.
That's a really good tool then. I love that. Because I know sometimes I have to stop and think because I'm so used to driving. Like we can be in the next county in 20 minutes. But in the 1800s,
Yeah.
that was not the case.
No,
All
no.
right. Now, from your bio, you obviously have a lot of writing experience. So I'm really intrigued to find out what is the best piece of writing advice that you have ever received in your career?
Um, I hate to say it, but it's just right.
Mhm.
Um, just just start putting words on the page. When I try to start a new project, I think, what am I trying to say here? What's my point? And just coming up with some and that sounds so basic, but a lot of times people don't seem to have one. And I don't all the time. And I just like, why am I writing this?
Mhm.
What do I want people to walk away from? And if I get that first thing and have a kind of good idea, then it flows a lot better. I can kind of check back and say, but just write and keep writing, and then realize that you're going to have to revise 9 million times. Oh,
Yeah, well, I mean, that's some really good advice. Now, you mentioned that you like to make PowerPoints for your characters. I can understand. I'm a PowerPoint girly. I like my PowerPoints. But do you consider yourself a plotter that has to have everything figured out ahead of time? Or are you kind of somewhere in the middle?
I'm kind of in the middle. I'm trying to do one for the Aurora thing that's coming up, Realm Makers, and I just yesterday said, "Ooh, I got to do the whole synopsis. I better figure out where because it's for unpublished. So I better figure out where this is going." Um, so, and I'm about third to half of the way through the book, but I have a general idea. I mean, I know what I want to happen, but it's just how it's going to get there. And a lot of times I was telling somebody today, I got to a spot and they dig up this chest that's supposed to have a clue to the mystery, and I don't know what's in the chest. So I said, and then they were interrupted. so I can so I can have some time to think about what's in there. So yeah, I'm like a plantser, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Um, I was talking to someone last week and we were talking about how we want to get rid of the terms plotter and pantser because number one, people outside of the community when they hear pantser, they don't understand what you mean. And also like sometimes to me it depends on the project that we write. So I'm curious because I've found with myself when I write flash fiction because it's shorter, I almost outline it in my head and write it down,
Right.
but then other times I have no idea where I'm going. So do you know for a fact you're indie when you write your flash fiction, or is it kind of like when you write your novels and you're just kind of figuring out as you go?
A lot of times with flash fiction, I just have an idea, like had the idea what would happen if Mount Tambora when what happened when Mount Tambora, how did that affect the world? So I did one for 540 on the when Mount Tambora blew up, and I just thought, oh, that's really interesting because they're saying that's one of the reasons for climate change. We don't know. People say stuff, but it might be. And so when I thought of that, I thought, oh, I should do something with that. And then I just start writing about, oh, it blew up, and then this happened, and then it kind of just that kind of just happened, and that was a flash. Um, or what if, what if your soul, what if you could give half of your soul to somebody else. Would that work for a fantasy one? Um, so just a lot of what ifs for me with Flash, especially.
Yeah, I love those what if questions. You never know where you're going to end up with those, do you? Well, thank you,
Is
Helen,
that,
for doing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I just said, are they calling that like exploratory writing or something? I don't know. I think they're using, yeah, I don't know what. I heard a new term for that
Yeah,
I thought, oh, I think that's what I do.
I heard someone call it discovery writing, and I was like, that makes me
Yeah, maybe
feel like
that's it. Yeah.
I was like, that makes me feel like I have my life together more than just flying by the seat of my pants. So that's what I've adopted. I'm a discovery writer. That's what I'm going to say. Well, it has been a pleasure having you, Helen. Where is the best place for readers to find you?
Um, well, have a web page, but I don't have it very well advertised. Um, it's a hard question.
Oh, I'm
I should
sorry.
probably do something about that. I'm on Facebook, but it's not, again, not, I need to be, one of the reasons I said, okay, I'll do this is I know I'm supposed to be out there more. And so I'm trying to expand my platform.
I have to say the platform thing is the part I like least about writing. I
Yeah.
would rather like be secluded in a cabin somewhere and just write, and then people just find me somehow.
Yeah.
But
So I appreciate you doing this so I could get this out there. Maybe I attach something. I don't know. But thank you.
well, we're glad to have you. Helen, like I said, has written for us a few times before, and her stories are always really good. And I'm going to put the links in the comments so y'all can go and find them because they're like a really nice variety. And I think in your bio, Helen, it does have a link to your website. So they can find you on your website. And that's the most important thing, right? That's what I tell myself. I have a website and that's all I need to do, right? And I just nod and I continue about my way. Anyways, thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live or you're watching the replay. Like I said, I'm going to put some links to her stories in the comments so you can go back and you can check them out and read them for herself. In the meantime, I hope you take the very long list that she gave you and take into some serious consideration whether you want to add it to your TBR because she did list some really good authors. One of them I've been seeing on Amazon a lot. Sophia Laporte, I think you said. I think I'm going to go check her out now that you said she's
She's
good.
only has a few, I think, that are on Amazon. So I think sometimes she puts them on and then takes them off. They're on for a while, but I like her.
Yeah, I have only seen a few, so that's probably what she does. I've heard of writers doing that, so I probably should go read them now before she goes and takes them off. That's a
Yeah.
very good point. I'm gonna have to go do that. Well, I hope everyone watching has a great night and a wonderful weekend. You get lots and lots of reading done. All right. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.